So, Shannon, did Andy Dalton make the right choice going with the Cowboys?
Well, Skip, he is from Texas. He played for TCU, which is very close to Dallas. I'm in the Fort Worth area, so it's very close to Dallas. And so I think the thing for him is that it does give him an opportunity. Now, Skip, this is a blessing and a curse, because I think the thing is that he's not going to get an opportunity to play a lot. So basically, he's going to have to base moving forward on his past resume. It's hard for you to deduce that, oh yeah, Andy Dalton is the guy that we really need, considering there's a chance he doesn't get an opportunity to play. But I can understand why he would come to Dallas, given the pieces that they have around, especially offensively. Have a very talented offensive line, have a running back that's top 5 every year in rushing. 2 of his first 4 years, he led the league in rushing. You have 2 guys outside. You take a receiver in the first round. So they're loaded offensively. You could understand if something were to happen to Dak, he gets an opportunity to go in. You can understand and you can see he just might even flourish, considering what he was in Cincinnati early in his career when he had A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd was healthy, and so forth and so on, Skip. So I get it. It's a great opportunity for him. Now, that being said, it also is an opportunity for him to get exposed. He goes there. He doesn't play as well as he thinks he's going to play, or people think he can play given the set of circumstances. And then people look like, well, if you can't do what you used to do with all that talent, what good are you going to do coming to my football team? So, Skip, I think it's a great opportunity, and I just don't know how much he's going to be able to showcase. It's like, Skip, you don't know how well a car works if someone never cranks it up and drive it. It might look good just sitting in the driveway, but for all we know, it doesn't even have a motor. So if Andy Dalton gets an opportunity to play, then I think it can highlight and says, okay, yeah, this was really, really great opportunity for me.
By the way, right now, my car looks really, really good in the driveway.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it has a motor because I don't even start it up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Back to Andy Dalton. This is one of the weirdest stories I've ever encountered. Completely inexplicable. And for all those years that Andy Dalton was in Cincinnati, he was maybe the most boring quarterback in pro football, and I didn't care about Andy Dalton. Now I really, really care about Andy Dalton because he very well could be the starting quarterback for my Dallas Cowboys, the Red Rifle. All of a sudden, he comes to life. Because, Shannon, the harder I look at this, the less sense it makes. 2 plus 2 do not equal 4, which is the number worn by the quarterback I have loved, Dak Prescott. So let me get this straight. Andy Dalton says he had 5 other opportunities. So 5 other teams said, please come and play for us. That sounds like it could have been a little bit of a bidding war in that some of the teams might have wanted him worse than the Dallas Cowboys did. I assume New England was in the mix. I don't know that for sure. I assume that Belichick might have wanted Andy Dalton to come in. Nice fit for his system, sort of Brady-esque in the way he manages the game, and compete with Jared Stidham, a quarterback who's never obviously started a game and is going to try to replace the GOAT, Tom Brady. I assume Jacksonville was in the mix because his former coordinator in Cincinnati, Jay Gruden, is obviously now in Jacksonville. And I assume they might have wanted him to come in and compete with Gardner Minshew, a young quarterback still trying to establish himself in the NFL. I remind everybody, Andy Dalton in his first 5 years in Cincinnati averaged winning 10 games. Averaged.
Yes.
And he averaged in those first 5 years throwing 25 touchdown passes a game. Dak, so far in his first 4 years, has averaged 24 touchdown passes a year. So 1 more than Dak has in the early stint in his career. And Andy Dalton made 3 Pro Bowls and took 4 Bengals teams to playoffs. Didn't win a playoff game, but he got 4 of those Cincinnati teams to the playoffs. He was scheduled to make $17.7 million next year. And they were able to draft Joe Burrow, love that, and they cut Andy Dalton. So suddenly he's a free agent, and he has 5 other opportunities, probably for more money, and he takes no money. To me, he takes a $3 million base, which was barely above what they'd already offered to pay Cooper Rush, their backup, $2.2 million. They cut him yesterday, predictably, but they were already scheduled to pay him $2.2, so they went to $3 million for Andy Dalton. Think about this, with incentives that could get him to $7 million. But Shannon, did you look at the incentives? They're preposterously impossible to achieve. He has to go win the Super Bowl. Seriously. He has to play the majority of the snaps in a Super Bowl victory to get to $4 million more in incentives that would get him to $7 million total for the year. $7 million, but really it's just $3 million base for Andy Dalton. So why would he choose such no money in Dallas, except to your point, yeah, he went to TCU. He's from the Houston area, Katy, Texas. He does have a home in Dallas. It's about a 30-minute drive from the Cowboy facility, which is up in Frisco. And he does have 2 fairly young boys, 6 and 3 years old. So maybe since they already had their off-season home there, it's like, well, let's just stay here for a year and then try to hit the market as a free agent. But Shannon, I don't get it, because something else is at work here. My theory is that Jerry Jones is at work here. And we're going to do a topic later in which we're going to talk about the comments that Michael Irvin made about Jerry Jones on Dallas radio 2 days ago. And I'm just going to hit them quickly, and we'll get to the depth of them later in the show. But Michael's point was he was advising CeeDee Lamb on how to deal with Jerry. And he said, Jerry didn't become a billionaire not being very persuasive. Jerry's one of the greatest dudes in the world to play for. But boy, when Jerry gets something in his head, he gets running with it. Trust me, he can be very persuasive. I believe he got into the ear of Andy Dalton, and he said, hey, we have hit a crisis point with Dak Prescott. I believe that somehow, some way, Jerry all but promised Andy Dalton he was going to get some playing time this year in Dallas with that explosive offense. Because all of Andy's comments were how happy he is to be able to play for Mike McCarthy, to learn under a guy who coached Montana and Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and how he said, I wanted an opportunity to win. Well, again, he's talking like he might get a shot to actually play quarterback for this team.
Right.
Shannon, I've told you, my greatest fear is that Jerry Jones has decided his negotiation with Dak and the new agent has gone completely south. That all of a sudden Jerry is to the point. Remember, when he reaches that point of no return, as he did once upon a time with Jimmy Johnson as head coach, he just goes over the edge. Nobody has a quicker temper or a longer fuse. It takes a long time for the temper to go, but when it goes, Shannon, it just explodes. I have witnessed it detonate. And when Jerry detonates, it's over, man. He doesn't care who you are or what value you have. He just moves on to the next. And it's starting to feel like he's very happy to have a shot at Andy Dalton, and that his powers of persuasion convinced Andy Dalton that this thing has gone south with Dak Prescott to the point that either he might rescind the franchise tag that he's placed on Dak until July 15th, or it might be that Jerry just thinks Dak's going to hold out and that they are convinced he's going to miss real games and that Andy Dalton will get a shot. That's the only theory that makes sense to me of why Andy would turn down New England and Jacksonville in favor of playing behind a quarterback, Dak Prescott, that if he's signed, sealed, and delivered, Shannon, he's 64 for 64. He's never missed a game. Played in all 64 games he was eligible to play for.
Right.
Well, he's the most durable quarterback in pro football. So why would Andy Dalton choose this unless Jerry convinced him, I don't think Dak's going to be there for us when we start playing games next year? I think Andy Dalton believes he's going to play for the Cowboys.
Skip, I think there are a lot of things at play, and let's go back and look at it this way. The most glamorous job in pro sports in which you are not a starter is the backup quarterback. Because everybody thinks, Skip, you've been around this game far too long. Everybody thinks the backup quarterback is better than they actually are. And then sometimes it proves to be true. The backup quarterback is pretty good. But more times than not, he's not what you thought he was. It was just you were out on the starting quarterback. Skip, insurance is like this. We have insurance on cars and hope most people have health insurance. You really hope you don't have to use it. Skip, I don't want to have a surgery. I don't want to have to, have an accident and have to use the car, but it's nice to have. Jerry's saying, look, man, I've been at this thing. We've been at this thing with Dak for almost a year now, and we've made no headway. I don't want to have to use this insurance policy, which is Andy Dalton. But I'll be damned if I'm going to go into the season without having it. And I think he's looking at it like that. Skip, for Andy Dalton's part, they did him a huge disservice. And I'm not surprised Cincinnati did that, considering they do a lot of things backwards. Skip, they knew they were not going to find a trade partner for Andy Dalton at $17.7 million when everybody knows you're going to release him. So why would I trade even a 7th-round draft pick? Skip, forget 2020. Why would I even trade you a 7th-round draft pick in 2021 when I know I can have him on the open market? And because they waited so long to do that, Andy Dalton maybe would have had more suitors. But Skip, when you get down to it, okay, look, let's just say for the sake of argument, he had Jacksonville. He had a couple of other teams. Skip, if he goes to Dallas, he doesn't play. He feels he can re-enter the market in 2021 as a viable starter. Skip, you will go to Jacksonville and don't get an opportunity to play or don't play well. He's not going back into the job market as a starter. You remember what happened with Nick Foles. Nick Foles looked really good in Philly, didn't he, Skip? And he got all this money from Jacksonville. Oh, he going to turn it around. His former coordinator is there. Woo! And look what happened. So Andy Dalton is looking at it like, even if I don't play in Dallas, they win. I can re-enter the job market as a starter in 2021, as opposed to going somewhere else, sitting on the bench, Skip, and they lose. At least if the Cowboys win the division, everybody's going to say, Andy Dalton was a great sounding board for Dak. Dak is going to say how much having Andy Dalton has really helped him progress, yada, yada, yada. Everybody's going to eat that up. Andy Dalton returns to the job market in 2021 as a viable starter.
So you're saying Andy Dalton basically chose to take a year off and just sit on ice in Dallas?
Yeah. Because that's what, Skip,
I don't
think
believe
about
that.
Skip, think about what Jameis is doing. Now, the reports are Cam says he doesn't want a backup job. Jameis took a backup job for 1.1. What's the likelihood of Jameis starting the game in New Orleans, considering? Now, Drew Brees did get hurt last year. Teddy Bridgewater did. But for the most part, Skip, in his 20 years, he had missed a whole lot of times. I think Drew Brees might have missed, 7, 8 games total in 20 years as a starter? So the likelihood of him missing time isn't very good. All I'm saying is, Skip, is that Jerry is looking at it like this. I don't want to have to use this insurance policy, Skip, but if I have to cash it in, it's nice to know, even if I have an accident, I hit somebody or somebody hit me, I'm taken care of. Whether Dak chooses to hold out, I got Andy Dalton, a guy that started the majority of his career, has played really well at points of his career. All the things that you mentioned, Skip, the 4 playoff games, the 4 playoff appearances in his first 5 years. Okay, I can deal with that. And considering what I have around it, Skip, it's kind of like a Matt Castle situation. You got all these weapons around, just don't F it up, Andy. Hand the ball to Zeke, throw to the open guy, which is a lot easier said than done. What's the problem? How you mess this up, Andy? Because he knows, Skip, he gets an opportunity to play. And he messed that up. Where are you going to go start at, Skip?
Okay, I got you. It's a great move for Jerry. it's a steal of a deal for $3 million base to have that guy in your back pocket as the ace up your sleeve. But remember, Jameis chose New Orleans, and Drew Brees is not a contract holdout. Drew Brees, to my knowledge, is healthy and happy and ready to play probably just one more year. So I get why Jameis would say, oh, I'll sit and learn from Drew and Sean Payton for 1 year. I'll go to, as he said, the Harvard sort of quarterback schools, because there's a good chance that in 1 year, Drew Brees might just call it a career. And all of a sudden, Jameis would be in the catbird seat to be the new starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. It's a beautiful situation and a great move by Jameis to take only $1 million a year, 1.1, to be ready and in position to replace Drew Brees. I don't believe Taysom Hill is viewed as the long-term starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. He's still the gadget guy. He's fallen into that niche and mold, and I don't think he's going to be able to get out of that stereotype that he's in right now. So Jameis is in a sweet spot because he could get a huge new deal to be the new starting quarterback of the Saints. Dak's going nowhere. If they get him finished, if they get the deal done, signed, sealed, delivered for the next, let's say, 5 years, I know he wants 4, let's say 4 years. The next 4 years, what does that do for Andy Dalton? He's going to have to go elsewhere. Something is up here, Shannon. I don't see it. It would seem to me that just on when you have a family to provide for, you've got a wife and 2 young children, that you'd want to max your money out. He's 32 years of age, is Andy Dalton. He said, I need to prepare for the next half of my career. You know, he feels like his career is about halfway done right now after, 9 years. But he could probably play
Skip,
another 9 years, certainly as a backup.
But Skip, you said something very interesting. You said that Jerry it takes a while for the fuse to burn down, but once it burns down, it goes kaboom. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, they don't get a long-term deal done. And Dak plays on the franchise tag. And here we go all over again next year. And Jerry says, the hell with this. I'm not doing this again, because if the tag is 31.3, 31.4 this year, it's going to be 35, 36, maybe even 37 next year. And Jerry says, the hell with this. I'm not going through this again. I'm moving on. Dak, good luck. Okay. He has Andy Dalton, who has a year under his system, a year under his belt in that system. So you said that he said that he got enough of Jimmy and he said, bye, Jimmy, I'm done. What if he does that with Dak after this season?
He might, and that's a good plan B theory for me. I agree with that. But my point is, Jerry had to discuss that eventual possible scenario with Andy Dalton to convince him to sign, saying that Jerry had to indicate to Andy Dalton and his agent, I don't love what's going on here. I don't feel real good about it. And as I said earlier, we're reaching a crisis point where I'm not sure he's going to be here long term. To your point, maybe 1 year at $31.4 million under the franchise tag. Maybe it's an unhappy year. You and I both agree. The tag it does nobody any good, and it never seems to create anything but ill will from both sides. You don't believe in me. I don't really trust you. We saw what happened with Kirk Cousins. He made a lot of money to go 2 times around in Washington with the tag, but they never got married. They just never got married, and now it's feeling like this is heading for some kind of not a divorce yet, but a separation almost, where the two sides don't trust each other. It doesn't feel right. I'm going on my antenna, which are usually pretty good. Something is amiss here for Andy Dalton to say, yeah, I'll take $3 million to play for the Cowboys when you've got the most durable quarterback in pro football. Something's up where Jerry convinced him, encouraged him, persuaded him to see the bigger picture of, I don't love where this is heading. And me as a Cowboy fan, I don't love where it is headed. I thought this Dak deal would have been done a year ago. You know it, and I know. We've talked and talked about it. Jerry's MO is he gets these deals done, and he invariably overpays his stars. Invariably. This time, I believe, you don't believe, but I believe Dak is asking, demanding outrageous, out of bounds, unrealistic money that even Daddy Jerry will not pay to another one of his sons, Dak. Except, to your point, this son is standoffish, arm's length. I'm not really your son. I'm just your quarterback. I'm really just your employee, Jerry. And I like you, and I want to know you, but I don't want to get close to you. So that's happening also, where there's not this father-son relationship that occurred with Romo and Jerry, and with Dez and Jerry, and Michael Irvin and Jerry, and we can go right down the line.
And Zeke and Jerry.
Even Zeke and Jerry. Zeke and Jerry.
Yes.
Father-son sort of relationship. I'll pay. But all those guys sucked up to Jerry, kissed up to Jerry, tried to stay on Jerry's good side, and we're going to talk about it just in a few minutes here. But Michael Irvin's point is, you have to learn how to manage Jerry Jones. Dak is saying, I'm not in the Jerry management business. I'm my own player. I'm my own entity.
That's what he's saying.
And you're going to have to pay me supreme money, top-of-the-line money that I think he's asking beyond what even Mahomes will ask for. So the point is, if it's reached that sort of a crisis, stalemate, impasse, you better have a backup plan, and he's got a very good one. He's got the best backup quarterback in football. He's got a proven starter, a good guy, not a wave maker, a guy you could plug and play because he's very accomplished. He's not exciting. He's not scintillating. He's not box office. But I believe Andy Dalton could win 10 games with this team as the starting quarterback, and that's all Jerry needs to know right here, right now.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.